Alrighty. Great. We've got our
Yeah.
teas, we've
What
got our
a tea.
garden,
Yes.
and we've got Tom Howard.
Yes. Hello.
Hello. Thank you so
Thanks for-
much for helping us.
Well, thanks for inviting me along to sit in this garden
You're
here.
very welcome.
Yeah.
Shall we do a cheers?
Oh, well, do we do cheers with tea?
I guess so.
Down the hatch?
Cheers. Yeah.
Okay. Mm.
So you are a location manager.
Yes. Yeah, I am.
Talk to me about that. How did you get into it?
Like all location managers, it's sort of by accident. Well, a bit of design, bit of accident. I think when I started in the industry, I didn't know what to do. And luckily my first break was being a director's assistant on a show called Longitude.
Okay.
And that was directed by Charles Sturridge. And the producer
How does one
was
get a
someone-
break being a director's
Well,
assistant?
in
That feels quite high up
99
already.
Well, it was. I went to film school, and when I came out, of course, I don't know what to do. You know, so all I could do was to like send CVs. So in those days, the internet and sort of email was very, very basic, but it was a letter in the post. And if I found an address for a production or offices, I would just send them sort of CVs and letters saying, hi, I want a job, sort of thing. And I started off sort of doing, a little bit of running for free. Got a car. I had to collect some rushes and do that for a few days, and that kind of led on to sort of another contact. And then one day I just got a call. Hi, we've got your CV here. Can you come into Granada Studios, which was sort of in central London? They had an office there. Meet Charles. We're doing a period drama for. It was a Millennium. Channel 4's Millennium Night. That was it. And they were doing a 2-part sort of historical drama. And I sort of rushed in. Didn't really know what I was doing, chatted with Charles, sort of said, I've got to go because I was doing a little bit of free work for somebody. And by the time I got down from sort of the 10th floor in Granada down to the bottom, I had a call saying, Charles really loved you, can you come back up and collect scripts? So I went back up again, collected a couple of scripts, and then sort of within a 4 or 5 days started as the director's assistant for Charles. And I must have been the first employee because there was really hardly anybody else around. So I'd do his diary. I would go with him for meetings with designers, DPs, actors. And as that sort of production built over the course of time, sort of very soft prep to shoot, I had the ability to kind of meet all the departments. And then when we were shooting, once he was on set, I was able to sort of stand back and kind of look at what people were doing. And I got to know the designer, the production designer, the costume designer, and then there was these sort of rather aloof people who kept kind of darting in and out with sort of pictures and boards and saying, we're going to shoot here, and what about this? And that was Bill Darby and his team, and I just thought it was incredible, this sort of knowledge base, and the fact that they were kind of semi-independent of the production. You're not tied to a camera or an office, and I was interested in photography, I liked architecture. So that kind of piqued my interest. When we finished that production, and that was 9 months, I went and worked in a production office and found that very boring. It was very dry. I was answering the phone, looking at scripts. And then I did a little bit of shooting for a pickup shoot. And I thought, I can't keep doing this. This is really dull. And so, and it must have been around 2001, I think, I saw an advert for a location library, amazing space, applied for that because I was really desperate for money by then. And I had about 18 months in the agency there where I was taught by the owner, Tiffany, to sort of scout, look at buildings, look at, what is a good location, what we were known for sort of the commercial and industrial and sort of very East London loft sort of locations. Right. And in those days, there's only about 5 or 6 libraries, and we'd all sort of had our own area.
Remind me, when you say in those days, what kind of
We're talking about sort of 2001.
Got you.
And I did about 18 months there, coordinating, scouting, and, and in those days we had photo folders, books, sort of big A1 folders, and people come and go, can I look through your collection? And I would meet location managers and we would page through, and if they needed a copy, we had to run down to the print company and get a photocopy of this. It was about like 20 quid a copy, a sort of a colour copy, and they would go off and show their design, and we may get a recce and then a booking.
That's kind of what I imagine like acting agents were like as well back in those
Yes,
days too. Those
yeah.
big folders just with
Yeah.
headshots. So
You
the same
go
for
in
you,
and
but
it's
with
just a
location
page.
headshots. Yeah.
And you know, in those days, you know, you'd do the rounds because, you know, when I started, we only just started with a website and it didn't have a library or even a search function on it. It was just like, come and see us. And so very, very early days of sort of scanning and trying to put a searchable website together. And most people still came in because they kind of knew what they're looking for. It's like, oh, I've seen you do lofts. Can I have, you know, you've got 3 lofts that might work. And we would find them and maybe set up visits and off they would go. And that was all very exciting. And I just thought, after 18 months, it's time to go freelance.
Yeah.
And so I had about 30 location managers. And I just emailed all of them just saying, I'm, you know, in a couple of months' time, I'm leaving Amazing Space. You know, would you like me as a scout? And it just snowballed from that.
Was it a scary decision to go from like salaried week by week work guaranteed to decide I'm going to go freelance, go on my own?
I'd always knew that I'd end up being freelance. I always knew that being in a company, it was nice, but I was never comfortable. I was never a company person. And also before, you know, I'd been to film school, I kind of knew the structure. I knew that I'd work for myself. And so, and luckily at Amazing Space, I had about 3 months of crossover where I kind of worked for them during the day, but I was able to either do a day or so scouting. So I was able to kind of go for a couple of days, scout on, I can't remember what it was, A State of Play was one of them. And then I could come back and just work in the office for a day. So I could get like a daily rate, and then I got some freelance. And after about 3 or 4 months of this sort of crossover, I was sort of out of the office more. And that kind of snowballed, you know, a day leads to 2 weeks, leads to 2 months. And it was scouting I got into first.
Yeah.
Didn't get into unit management, I wasn't really attracted by that. I was much more about the location.
Getting on the
and use
road.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there was 2 ways to go. You either went kind of unit management, which was sort of logistics, or as a location manager, it was much more, you know, interpretation of what the designers or directors were shooting for. And so I suppose that rumbled on for about 6-7 months, and then I did a little bit of location assisting. And then again, in those days, we were very small teams. There was only 4 people in the team, a manager, an assistant, a location assistant who was my first role.
It's such an interesting career because you're the 3rd person location manager we've interviewed. And okay, I know the sample size isn't very large right now, but everyone has very different pathways into it.
Yes.
Like I guess a lot of other traditional, I don't know, your sort of stock standard jobs where there's a very clear pathway. Like you go to uni, you become a teacher, you get a job at the school and X, Y, Z. It's really interesting from my point of view to see how there are so many different ways in.
It's kind of like, you know, location management is slightly a jack of all trades. It's not, you know, like if you're going into cameras, you know, you might be a photographer, you get as a junior, you know, then you might focus pull for a bit and then you might operate.
Yeah.
And then maybe somebody might say, well, you know, I like what you're doing. You know, here, would you like to operate? Or, you know, DP for my drama. And you know, so, you know, that's one route in. With location management, it's kind of like you can come from all sorts of angles.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I came in, let's say on a creative side, I went to a film school, but we all know that there's sort of ex-military, there's people who come in from maybe other production roles, whether they've, you know, been in the office or, you know, as other careers have brought them this way. And so I think that's what makes it so sort of, well, it's sort of kind of colourful group of people. So when we do get together, mainly at our Film London get-togethers, you know, it's a very diverse group of people. But what I do notice is that we're very similar in sort of character.
And what are those similarities?
Well, I think as I was coming along here, I think the first thing is one, we got to have an eye. I mean, that's, you know, there's the whole debate about whether we're just sort of like logistics, and there's a big sort of push, certainly with the LMGI, and we're sort of trying to push BAFTA to kind of recognise the art of the location manager. And talking to BAFTA was sort of very much like, oh, but don't you just do toilets and parking? You know, doesn't the designer sort of just direct you? You know, going, well, No, I see it as a partnership.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the designer might go, I need a red brick Tudor house. And you might go, well, yeah, here's 2, but I can probably find you 5 others.
Yeah.
And there could be 5 others that you've never seen before. And actually reading the script, I think there's a couple out of those 5 others that have better geography inside, or maybe it's easier to work with. And, you know, we all want to bring something to the screen that's new. We don't want to keep seeing the same old stuff.
Totally.
So I'm very much on the side that location management is a creative role, and the other half of it can be learned.
Yeah.
You know, and I think talking to my, you know, fellow location managers and I would say scouts as well, we have an interest in sort of obviously architecture, but it doesn't end there. You know, it's urban, you know, it's streetscapes, it's landscapes, it's mountains, seas, you know, it's tunnels, it's all these sort of different interests, and we all have, you know, I like doing period stuff. I like the history of buildings. I like sort of bringing a designer somewhere like here, and they go, great, well, we can remove the modernity from here, and we've taken it back 100 years. We could paint the interior, and we've got another 50 years to take. So I think as a location managers, you know, I think that's where we should start, and I see that in a lot of people I get to meet, is the interest in sort of the art form of it. The logistical side of things, you know, that can be learned, that can come along as you develop your career. And these days we do have bigger departments, so you don't necessarily have to know what a bowser is over a waste bowser or water bowser and how they operate. You know, you've got a couple of people in your team that would deal with that. But I think as a location manager, I would say that we have to start and enjoy the creative first, and then the rest of that area of things comes later. And what I see with all of us is we have that sort of empathy for our locations. We have a creative eye. We have an interest in what we're doing, and I think those are the sort of the 3 key characteristics of a good location manager.
The more that I work in locations, the more I have this feeling, especially chatting with location managers like this, that you are one of the like creative unsung heroes of the film industry, I feel, because the more I work, the more I see this creative element. And as an actor as well, the location really informs my creative process too. And if you have a location manager who has a creative eye, just like everyone else in the crew, you're going to have this creative symbiosis, and wow, it's going to fly. It's not, I wholeheartedly agree, it's not just logistics. It is also an art, and it's not necessarily been seen that way, but I hope more and more that it does.
Well, I think the more we keep talking about it, and maybe something will come of it as we start to sort of talk louder about the creative side. I mean, yeah, of course we've got to think about logistics. I mean, we don't just walk in somewhere and go, great, we'll just shoot here and walk off and that's it. You know, we are multifaceted, and also we're not, it's not, you know, we're not just talking to the designer. I could be the 4th or 5th person onto a production team, director, designer, producer, DP, and then it could be me. And we will sit around a table, we might have a cup of tea, and we'll talk about the script, and we'll hear those desires, and I might be sort of throwing in a few things. How about this house? What about that sort of landscape? Occasionally we might be asked, well, we don't know where to set this, but, you know, where do you think we could have that? The climax of sort of episode 2, you know, we were thinking something urban, or is there something a bit more interesting out there? You know, and unless I just say, well, I don't know, you know, you tell me what you want, and I'll just find it. You know, we might come up with 6 or 7 ideas.
Yeah.
You know, 3 might be shot down. Designer goes, I hate those. But actually, that's really a good idea. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, and how satisfying for you as a job to be able to do that. And
we'll bounce those ideas, and as the script's being developed. So on the last job I did, which was Under Salt Marsh for Sky, we were working with a director called Claire Oakley, and you know, she was writing as we were scouting.
Love that.
And we were in North Wales, and myself and my colleague Imogen, who scouts with me, we were kind of going off and bringing stuff back and firing it back to the production. And every Friday evening, we would sit on a Zoom, because we're in North Wales, they're in South, and Claire would respond, you know, a great house, but it needs to be more modern, or can you find it near the coast? And then occasionally we'd share stuff and go, look, we kind of found this, and we don't know what to do with it, but what do you think? And that would either spark some interest. You know, in occasions it sparked a rewrite, you know, because she was sort of, let's say, struggling with a couple of, how do I do this? And we were going, that's going to be really difficult to do that. But actually, if we set it here, and if design can sort of add something to it, then you've got a great, it's interesting. It's something I haven't shot before, and I think you find it will have some dynamic to it. And she'll go, great, okay, right, we're going to do that now. So suddenly the script will change.
And then the location also becomes a character.
Yeah.
Like, it's I think treating locations like characters, I was talking about this with another actor friend of mine, not only from the acting side does it help you, but also, like you just said, like you have a director-writer who's doing rewrites based off the location. How can you tell me that it's not a creative job?
Yeah. I think when I've been thinking about getting more recognition and like the casting directors have just got their sort of award and recognition.
Yeah, what the hell?
And yeah, I mean, it's great, fine, I mean, they do an amazing job, but they, they're not really in front of the camera, and their role is very pre-production. Okay, they might be casting through the entirety of a production, and maybe there is clearly there's creative input, but they are really only kind of casting. Like, I'm casting locations.
Yes, exactly.
I might be sitting here with a designer, and they're going, I need this sort of house to represent this character, but what have you got? And it might be that we'll look through my database. No, there's nothing there. So we'll go out and scout, and we're talking about not only we don't talk about how many doors and windows and we want a red brick roof and a big garden. You're talking about feeling. We're talking about, so with this house, it needs to feel, it's homely. It's the mother's home in the story. We need to feel like we are being enveloped by it. Do you think there's something out there that's cold, and it's our sort of nemesis in this drama? This person needs to have a house or an office that is sits on the landscape and it ignores it. And it's not as simple as like, I just want an office. Give me an office. I'll do any office. It is a lot more sort of to do with, so how are you feeling about that?
Yeah.
Do you want a big entranceway? Do you want to go up 16 floors atrium before you get into this office? So I think to ignore the creative, we would just be, well, logistics, but we're much better than that.
I've got a question for you. So a lot of casting agents, when I read interviews and things like that, they'll sort of say that when they're looking at actor headshots for casting of a role, yes, they're looking for an aesthetic, but they know when they see it in the eyes often.
Yeah.
Is it kind of similar in a way, like when you're scouting for locations, yes, you're looking for an aesthetic, but when you're in that place, you have the feeling and you're like, that's it?
One of my examples is that I did the BBC's Howard's End drama. So it's a remake of a very famous film. It was a very loved film, and it's, talking to the producers, like, well, this Merchant Ivory film is one of the best. We're going to have to find something that, for the house that is equally as good, but it can't be the same.
Yeah.
We can't just kind of go, we'll just recreate what was been seen before. So I started scouting, and I literally went, I think this was one of the houses. I just looked at every interesting, largest sort of house that fitted the brief of being it's about 1906 to sort of 08. So we knew we had to kind of look at sort of turn of the century and going backwards. So we looked at, medieval, Tudor houses, Victorian up to the Edwardian, let's say, early Arts and Crafts. And I remember sort of like going out one day and thinking, so frustrated. I was like, I'm just going to go out to Surrey. I went to this point in this map and I said, right, I'm just going to drive there, and I'm going to drive around with my letters. And if I see anything in the next couple of days, great, I'll post a few letters. And so I went to Hambledon in Surrey and started driving all the back country lanes. I'd stop and talk to people. Do you know of an interesting house in the area? What, I can see there's a drive there. Do you know what the house is like? And they went, oh, just ring on the doorbell, I'll let you up. And eventually, after sort of like towards the end of the first day, I sort of ended up at a particular house that I drove past once, and then kind of like, oh, that was an interesting frontage onto the road, because it's also, we had to have this sort of, the house needed to have an approach, and we needed this road, and we needed to stand back. So I kind of whizzed past this house, and I did a U-turn, came back, and it was an interesting, very, very interesting turn of the century arts and crafts, very early. So it's sort of red brick with wooden panelling, and it looked small at the front, but I sort of pulled over and got out and sort of found there was a back drive, And it started to kind of get bigger as you sort of looked at the front, and I thought, well, this is quite interesting. This, you know, I quite like this look. This is different. It's different but same, and I had this sort of feeling that. And then, and the lady who owns it wasn't in there, but I was able to sort of get into the back garden by just sort of literally like this, sort of walking around the back. I was looking for a post box, and she has this beautiful garden. It's a Gertrude Jekyll garden, as I now found out, and. I thought, you know, there's something here. I think this is really good. And she didn't have a letterbox, so it was a bit like, oh, where am I going to put the letter? So I put it in a milk bottle and put it on
Nice.
one of 7 front doors. I now found out she has 7 doors to the house.
When 6 isn't enough.
Yeah, I mean, it was, even the front door didn't have a post box, and I now found out because the house had been split, that was to the other half of the house. And I didn't hear anything, and I did another day, and it was just like, oh, I can't see anything. We dropped 6 letters, we looked at some, and there's something not right about these things. And eventually the lady is known as Van, phoned me up and sort of said, well, I'm not really interested. I don't know why you put the letter here. I've just got back and you know, and don't bother me again. And I was like, oh God. So I kind of persevered, and we ended up having a 2-hour conversation.
How did you persevere? Like, how did you?
Well, once I told her what it was, I said, you know, we're making a version of Howard's End. Your house, I think, you know, by then I'd done a little bit of research. I knew it had been built in the turn of the century. I knew it was very early arts and crafts. I knew it had been designed by an architect called Carew. I can't remember the first name. And she said, oh, that was my husband's grandfather, and you know, my husband's now passed, but it's now with me, and it will turn to my son, and my son is the head architect of St Paul's Cathedral, so I can latch onto that. Oh, filmed at St Paul's Cathedral, you know, not a problem. They didn't have a problem with this filming lark. So I slowly built a rapport, and I got her to at least invite me over for coffee.
Nice.
So a couple of days later, I drove down and sort of sat in the kitchen. She wouldn't let me any further in. And I really was persevering with this because I had this gut feeling that this might be a really good house. So over the course of a couple of weeks, she slowly sort of started saying, well, I'll show you the house, but you won't want it. I was like, walking around the house and I was taking pictures while I was going, this is amazing, this is brilliant. Oh, this, you know, I can see it. Can you imagine this dining room as in Howard's End? Oh, I do love the book. And now you sent me this letter, I started rereading it again. And oh, you know, so slowly we built up this sort of, that she would actually then allow a director and designer visit. So I managed to get the director and designer down to the house. We sort of crept around it for half a day, coffee, crept around it a bit more. You know, I was saying, just don't push it. Let's just sort of go, oh, this is really lovely. This is really nice. So when we left, she said, I'll think about it. How much money would you pay me? So I sort of started mentioning a day rate and things. And I could see her eyes like, I'm going, and she went, oh, actually, that's now quite interesting. And we had to do 2 sessions. We needed a winter look and a summer look.
Right.
The production got pushed back.
Okay.
The house kind of got, I had to sort of put it on hold. I said, we're not going to start in autumn. We're going to now start in the following year. But the producers kept me on scouting. I did another 3 months of scouting, actually, for houses. I did each county, pretty much from Sussex, Surrey. And I kept coming back to this house.
Yeah.
You know, every time I showed the director pictures, she would go, oh no, it's not like the first house. Okay, should we keep going? I'll keep going, there might be something better out there. And eventually, with the designer, we went back again for a second visit, just before Christmas. And by then, the owner had kind of really softened up and was very much actually like, do you know, I could really see this. And if we cleared this, and maybe
the journey.
Eventually we kind of got to a deal. You know, we needed 2 weeks in February, and we needed 2 weeks in sort of as early spring or as early as summer as we could get. And yeah, it was a journey for her, you know. I mean, after the first visit.
And for you.
Yeah, she was quite hard work.
Yeah.
I mean, we really had to look after the house. She was very, very nervous. And we really had to be the buffer between what we were doing and her. And so one of my location managers literally sat with her every shoot day, talking to her about other things,
right?
Not what's going on in the house.
So interesting, yeah.
But after the first session, she sort of was like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to do the second." I said, "No, sign here." So I got to sign this contract. So I know what you're doing. You're booking me in for May.
Yeah.
I said, "Yes, there's quite a lot of money on the table here." And she said,
yeah.
"Well, I've already spent it. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this bit of the garden." And the house needs some work. And she said, I don't really like this. I don't. It's a real intrusion. And when we came back in May, everything has sprung up. It was beautiful.
Amazing.
And we had a base in a field next door. And she would always appear for meals. I mean, she didn't hate us. She kept coming for food and got talking to the actors. And,
Did she film again ever? Do you know?
I don't think she's ever had it again. I know she's now passed and it's gone to the Sun. I know it'd be the right project. I mean, Howard's End was the right sort of book. She read the book. She phoned me and said, "Oh, I can see it working here. I know exactly why you stopped here." And sort of, I suppose she sort of talked herself into it. But coming back to your question of gut feeling, it was that visit at the end of a day, and it usually is sometimes the last thing you see, and you go, I think this could work. I think this is it.
Yeah.
And so, you go back to the designer and director and say, look, I've got this amazing house, but I only have pictures on the phone, because she wouldn't let me take any pictures, and there's sort of a few from the road. And it kind of developed from that. And then we got in, we could do more pictures, and then we could talk about design and clearing out the rooms. Oh, it's just incredible. It was a warren of rooms and books and stuff.
Yeah.
All had to come out, and we could clear the sight lines. And even she was kind of walking around the house going, oh, wow, I can really see this now. I think maybe you can get rid of some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going, yeah, we'll just skip it if you want. It was full of old stuff.
Yeah.
And when we went back, I did stop a few months back. I was driving past. I did stop and I knocked on the door and we had another coffee. So I had coffee. And we had a lovely chat and she showed me around the garden. We walked around and she dredged this huge lake and done a lot of planting out of the money. And she said, you lot paid for this. I've now opened this up. This is how the garden would have been at the time of it being made, the house built. And I sort of said, would you ever have filming again? And she said, well, I'd consider it again, but it has to be the right project at the right time. And so I think, and that's the great joy out of location managing, is finding these places, opening them up, having a rapport with somebody, and maybe I might be the only one who can get back in, or maybe somebody else might knock on the door. The Sun might open the door and go, not a problem, we had filming here before, we really enjoyed it, but you've got to do this, this and this to look after it. So I think, and that's what I mean, is about occasionally we go out and we do certainly have a vibe and a feeling, and you go, I've just got to find a way of selling this to the director and the designer.
I guess, also a big part of your job is then relationship building, isn't it? Because yes, you've got to have that creative eye to have a gut feeling when you walk into a place, but then also being able to do what you did with this location owner and build a rapport and a relationship with them. Not everyone has the skills to do that, I think. And a lot of people at the first hurdle of rejection might be like, oh, I'm not going, it's awkward for me to keep pushing this, I think that would be a very natural response. So it takes a lot of care to be able to go back again in a way that's not obtrusive. I
think part of our job is not just the house or the property, it is the owner.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we've all been in somewhere and you've walked away and you're going, oh my God, it won't work. The owner's too jumpy, or they're not going to be helpful. I have, not shown stuff where I go, this is perfect, and the owner's sort of, you walk away and go, oh no, I don't know, I could work with that person.
Yeah.
Because we are the front line. Without that we're the PR for the job, and so if the job is good, whether because I do period, it's either Howard's End or the Secret Garden. These are things people can relate to. So you find that they either have a rapport with that. Yes, we have to build a relationship with somebody very quickly. I have to be your sort of best friend within maybe 2 visits. So if you can't build that and you're coming in and you're sitting okay, on this visit I've got 15 other people here. And then I'm like, oh, is that the crew? And you go, they represent maybe 150. You do have to kind of build a rapport very quickly, and I have to work out, a way of talking to them. If it's, can I be sort of friendly and chatty, or do I have to be quite formal? Do I have to sort of be, present it in such a way that this is already a deal right from the start, or can we have a cup of tea and we talk about it? And they go, yeah, here are the keys, do what you like. Great. I'm not going to ruin it, but it will be like a circus landing on your house.
Yeah.
And they either go, we love it, we love this sort of thing, like, I know these people here like enjoy the circus. Or if that person looks in horror and goes, oh my God, what, 100 people, what are they all doing? Where are they going to go? And I said, well, don't worry about that, we'll work that out, but we'll just talk about the property. I might come away and go, honestly, I don't think that's going to work. You know, and I have to let them down gently. I go, well, actually, we had a change of heart, or, you know, the script's changed slightly. So I think more than 50%, maybe even 75% of selecting a location is are the owners. Can you relate to them? Can you build trust? Because within sort of a few weeks, I'm going to have to be almost sort of a bit about your best friend, because I might have to stand there and act as that buffer between a production who might be demanding. And I go, look, save all your notes for now. I will talk to the owner, but I can't do it with you lot standing over my shoulder.
Yeah.
I can see this person's nervous, so what I want to do is I will get a list and I'll sit down, we'll have some tea, and I will go through it very gently. Could we paint that room? I know you said you just had it painted recently. We will do it very, very well. You said it's Farrow & Ball. We will paint it with Farrow & Ball. We'll put it back with Farrow & Ball. What's the paint colour? Oh, if you're going to do it with that, not a problem. So, yes, I think part, and if not a good chunk of what we do, is to build that rapport. Because it is, you know, you're kind of herding an army through somebody's private property. You're taking it apart, you're putting it back again. You know, you could be going through their drawers, you're taking out furniture, you might be uncovering stuff that they wanted to forget. So we do have to sort of have a real empathy and a relationship with our owners. And it's nice when you kind of finish and you leave and you kind of, the dust is settled and you walk away and you go, is everything okay? And either they go, that was the most amazing thing, come back anytime, or occasionally you get, oh, I'm never doing that again. You know, that was horrific. And you go, fine. If you get a letter like this, don't respond to it. You know, if somebody knocks on your door or you're thinking of putting it with an agency, it's going to be like this. Sometimes they change their mind. I've had people phone me out and said, oh, we really missed you lot. You know, do you want to come back again? Well, that was a script for you. But I think a location manager has to be approachable. We have to understand what people are trying to say. You need to listen. Certainly if there's an issue or a problem, it's very important that you listen to them and not kind of talk over them, not kind of tell them, well, what's your problem? You know, we park your truck on that piece of grass. What are you worried about? You know, we can fix it. You've got to be able to listen to people.
I have another question from what you were just saying then. I never thought about this, but so actors have a typecast often where like they'll look at me and they'll say, okay, Australian, early 30s, maybe a bit artsy, maybe a bit of a party girl, who knows?
Right.
And that's what I'll be seen as and then asked to
So you get stereotyped slightly.
Do you as a location manager also kind of get stereotyped off the back of your work? So you've done a lot of historical stuff, for instance. So are they sort of like Tom Howard is our historical guy. We're going to come to him for this and this. Or do you find, not saying that you're totally keyholed, but generally do location managers kind of fall into a sort of genre or category of production?
I think I've done more period than contemporary, but the things that I've been most known for is contemporary, like The Night Manager. I mean, Taboo was Georgian. It did go a long way, and that's another one that people might talk about. And I've just done a contemporary crime drama in North Wales. But before that was Mary and George, which is Jacobean set. I mean, it's designers might talk to me because they've seen something I've done before and go, oh, you understand architecture, you understand that period. Or equally, if it's contemporary, I do like to mix and match. I don't want to say I'm going to turn anything down. I like reading something interesting, something I haven't done before. So Under Salt Marsh, it was all set in North Wales. It was like not necessarily a traditional crime drama, but I hadn't done anything like that where it's contemporary and in a new area. What I'm doing now is Victorian set. I mean, and I understand the language of sort of the design. You know, why are we taking all this down? Why are we painting it this colour? Why are we putting up? Why are we taking out street signs and things like that? I've just done more period, and it is more challenging. But equally, if somebody came to me and said, we're doing a contemporary spy thing, are you interested? I think it comes down to script. You know, if I read the script and I go, oh, I'm really interested in this, this is a really good story and you've got some great actors, I'm not too bothered, because they all come with their own sort of, you know, challenges, let's say. It's not just that period is harder, it's just a different set of challenges. Contemporary is just equally as hard in other ways, but I wouldn't say I'd like to be pigeonholed.
No. Well, the last thing I wanted to sort of ask you is, we're here at Tudor Manor House, Tudor Palace, sorry.
Yes.
Which is what we call it at Silverstein Locations, Tudor Palace. And I just wondered, I know you've come here and scouted before, but looking around, what is the sort of feeling that you get with this place, and what sort of story do you think it would be best to tell? You can just use your gut instinct. I know I've put
Well,
you
no,
on the fly.
I filmed it and used it for period before. I definitely used it on Parade's End. And one other thing, I can't remember what else I've done here. But I would use it. I mean, when we were doing Mary and George, we did look at it for Jacobean, but it needed so much work on the interior to take it apart. So I mean, we've all seen it in contemporary as well. I think this one works well because you can tell two sides of it. You can either go contemporary country house with it, and whether it's you just see it what it is. You just move a bit of furniture around. You just shoot it as it is. But it also, so Parade's End was sort of First World War. We took some of the rooms back to sort of First World War time. So they're very adaptable here. I think we painted one of the rooms a colour and re-wallpapered one.
Nice.
So it reads both ways. I think it's harder to do it for Jacobean very early period because the garden is much more modern than Jacobean garden. But that's only me and my architectural garden history now.
It's very impressive. I have to say, look, I wouldn't know. This is a bit
of a Victorian sort of style where sort of Jacobean gardens were very, very formal, like a knot garden and very, very geometric. And
something
it was a
like
style.
Hatfield House, for example.
Or even go and look at the back of Ham House or the side of Ham House where they've got a couple of gardens, which are these sort of, and their gardens would be much more sort of a walking garden. These sorts of plants probably, you might have had some tulips and things, but they would have been much more of a place to stroll and be seen. So when we did sort of gardens or anything with sort of the Jacobean, we had to steer clear of sort of what effectively this is a bit like a Victorian cottage garden. So I think on the side of this house, it's much more sort of, let's say, where the yews and the boxes, it's a bit more sort of in keeping with the house. But that's years of sort of like looking through books, reading things.
It's your craft.
Talking to designers, and sort of knowing that a particular place is close to its period, or maybe it's been developed and redeveloped too far away. And that's the battle we have. You might walk into a house and it looks great on the outside, but interior-wise it's been so sort of done up over the years. You've lost the original sort of original matching interior. So doing periods, you might have great exteriors. You get inside and go, oh my God, there's an Arga in there and the kitchen's too modern and there's carpet everywhere and they've painted everything which should be plain. So that's the knowledge that you're building. And I think that is, what a location manager should be doing. You're bringing that to the table and assisting the decision making with your knowledge of what's out there and also the history of these places.
Beautiful. Tom, thank you so much.
That's all right.
It's been so interesting to chat with you and really nice to meet you in person, and so nice to do it here at Tudor Palace with a beautiful garden.
Isn't it? Yeah.
And I wish you all the luck with your location management
well, thank you very much.
career as you go on.
As I was trying to work out, it's been 25 years, I suppose, I've been doing it and being involved in it.
Stripes.
Yeah. Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
Still do it for plenty of years longer as well.
Thanks so
Great.
much.
Well, thanks for inviting me on.
Welcome.
Okay, thanks.